Welcome to another episode of A Beer with Atlas. I'm Rich.
I'm Brian.
And this week, one of our nurses brought us a fun bomber, right? It's a big
bomber.
bottle.
Yep.
From the Swinging Bridge Brewing Company in River Falls, Wisconsin. Let's try that one more time.
Yeah.
Swinging Bridge Brewing Company in River Falls, Wisconsin.
Never heard of them.
Never heard of them either.
Cool.
Nope.
I'm excited. This is kind of what, I don't know, our secret wish was we'd start putting these shows out and then people would send us things we can't get. So
Yep.
Here we are. 2 weeks in a row.
I don't think we can get this anywhere near here.
No.
It doesn't look like they have any distribution whatsoever yet. It's all just local to River Falls. I keep wanting to call it Fall River, and I don't know why. So
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm even reading it off the back of the bottle, and I thought the same thing.
Yeah. So this one is a cherry limeade Berliner Weisse. 3.5% ABV, so nothing. This is going to taste like a cherry limeade from
We can drink this
Sonic,
whole thing.
maybe. Yeah,
That'll be fine.
We'll see. We'll see what it tastes like. So fancy bottle with some wax on the top, and
Yeah, it has that Maker's Mark red.
yeah,
Oh, and it's pouring pretty red, too. That's that cherry we got in there.
it's way red.
Nice. Thank you, sir.
Interesting. Okay. So yeah, so one of our nurses, Julie Stuber, was on a contract up in Wisconsin, and went to this brewery at least twice, I think. And this was her favorite. So and I love a Berliner Weisse anyway. Like that's if you want to talk about a gateway beer,
Yeah,
that's definitely one of them
for sure.
Yeah,
What's the alcohol on this one?
3.5.
So not enough for what Dolan would be into. But
No, not at all.
Good enough for us.
Nope, not at all.
All right.
Let's give it a shot. Whoa.
Yep.
That's way more sour than I thought it would be.
That's really good. Mm-hmm. That's really good. I like that.
I'm not getting the cherry, though. Maybe a little bit. Okay, wait a minute.
I don't
Yeah.
know. We'll try it again. I was going to say I got more of the lime. but-
Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, you got to let it, you got to get into it a little bit.
Yeah. Second drink.
Yep.
I have a 3-drink rule on my Untapped.
Okay.
I don't ever want to give it a rating before my third drink because it changes.
It does.
And like maybe the first time you tasted it, you just had something else. Mm-hmm. By the third time, you should know what you're getting into.
I've got that with, like, having someone try sours for the first time.
Yeah.
The first one's going to be like, oh, God, what'd I get myself into? The second one's like, okay. Then the third one, you're finally into it.
And you're finally realizing what you're doing. Yeah.
Right.
And it tastes amazing.
Yeah. Oh.
That one's good.
I like it. Yeah, it's fun. Really red, pinkish red color on
Yep.
it.
That's true. That is one of the things.
So give me the history of a Berliner Weisse.
Well, first I'm going to drop a little something else on you, Rich. I
Awesome.
prepared.
Awesome.
I went with the history of lemonade and limeade.
Oh.
Because I thought, well, we got a cherry limeade flavor,
Yep.
which is something that you do with Berliner Weisse style beers is usually use syrup to change the flavors. You'll see those in breweries most prevalently that makes them. And there's kind of like a standard flavor. Basically, what you get is that lactobacillus sort of sourness. And then a lot of breweries will make syrups, like pop syrups or whatever, that you can choose and use as much as you want. And you're basically making the beer yourself. So the beer is done. You're just adding flavor to it afterwards. Oh. And there's a brewery that does that in South Dakota. I had a beer like that in Lincoln. Somebody did 3 or 4 different flavors, and they'll usually do something really cool.
Interesting.
So it's like almost like a choose your own adventure style thing. There's 4 or 5 different flavors. But so that was the reason I started thinking about this.
Okay.
And I could trace just like lemonade or limeade back to 1000 AD was the first time it was ever created. It was in India because sugarcane and lemons were from there. And usually everywhere except England and a few other European countries, but everywhere else around the world, lemonade is cloudy because it's usually hand squeezed, or that's usually the property that you're using.
Okay.
Those other places where it's not, it's because it's carbonated. So like Germany and England and France, they have this thing for carbonated lemonade ever since the mid-1800s. That's what they've had.
Okay.
And that's just a flavor thing, I guess.
All right.
But here in America, we don't have that. That's the same style as Berliner Weisse. It should be cloudy. You shouldn't really be able to see through it too much. If you were to take the flavor out of it, like the coloring, it should be a little bit cloudy and murky. That's the traditional style. And then I saw something that was talking about cherry limeade, which is this one, right? Mm-hmm. So that's been around maybe since the mid 1900s only, that flavor combination, at least here. And then it was really popularized by a place Dolan likes to go, Sonic, for happy hour.
Oh. Does he like to go there? I don't
know.
They don't sell,
Does he?
They don't sell beer.
Well, that was the first time he went.
Oh.
He thought he was getting something like that.
He misunderstood.
So then when he realized it was just $1 off a drink, he was like, I'll hydrate this way. So, but they make them there. Cherry limeade's kind of a popular thing. And then like Minute Maid, I think, Coca-Cola company, they make a canned version. Some craft like Pops sodas. If you go to the grocery store, you'll see cherry limeade flavor.
Limeade.
So
Yep.
it's just like a soda fountain thing, really. But it's been pretty popular. So now you'll see them every once in a while. I think I've maybe only had one other beer that had this in it. So that's the history I had just for that stuff. Berliner Weisse, like you said earlier, this was around 3.5%. That's usually the standard alcohol level. We kind of touched on it the other time when we were talking about the cranberry tart beer, just because you don't want it to be overpowering, kind of an all-day sort of situation with this. It's brewed basically a variation of the white ale. So like one of the first episodes we did was the white, Belgian white. So it's kind of a similar way to do it, brewing-wise. It's just a matter of what you do afterwards. It changes it. So you can either sour it on purpose. You can do what they used to do, like in Berlin, where this style kind of came from. Berlin, Hamburg, mid-1800s, and even somewhat before that, when they were making this, the way they would make it sour is they would brew it like they were doing the Marzen or the Oktoberfest beer, so early in the year, and then they would kind of pump up the alcohol a little bit, and then they would take the bottles and they would bury them in the sand or the ground to kind of keep them warm them up a little bit, but protected from the elements. So it was too cold to do like in a cave or, the basement of a building situation. So they would just bury them out there someplace and let it get funky on purpose, basically sour them on purpose or spoil them on purpose. Because that's really what you're getting into is that spoiled flavor or characteristic of the beer.
So it's beer kimchi.
Yeah, basically. Is basically what it comes to. It's just not fermented that long. But, and they would dig them back up later on in the year and see what you get. So that style is kind of similar to what smaller craft breweries are doing, only in the fact that it's probably a little bit different every time. You could use the same recipe, but when you're doing it that way and fermenting it afterwards, maybe fermenting it in the bottle, adding a little bit of lacto to the bottles that you've done, you don't always get the same flavor every time. So it might be a little more sour or tart than others. The levels will be different, but the characteristics will be the same if you're using the same recipe.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's kind of where it started. Was like a lot of beers in Germany. And
thank you, Germans.
No doubt. I read something, I don't know if this is true because it seems so crazy to me, but at one point in time, this was the most popular style in Germany. And at one point in time, there were 700 breweries in Germany making this.
Wow.
Which was probably accurate before you could actually ship beer and stuff.
Right.
But by the time of the 1800s, there was 50 breweries in Berlin making it. By the 1990s, there was 2 breweries making it.
Whoa.
So like a lot of other things, it just almost died off.
It just faded out.
And it started coming back here again in the 80s. So when the craft beer explosion happened and people were home brewing, this is another one of those styles that came around.
Interesting. Do you think you could credit any of the wine coolers or the lower alcohol beverages that came about to the style coming back? Maybe?
I think it's probably... It could correlate somewhere. I mean, it's light drinking. It's just another one of those things probably where it was probably more of a market grab. Like, oh, we need something that isn't going to knock you over, and it's not an IPA.
Yep.
Somebody that doesn't drink beer would like this thing.
I think, once again, we talk about gateway beers all the time. This is exactly what this is.
Yeah.
No bitterness whatsoever. Just super low ABV. It tastes like, the more you get into this, it tastes like a Sonic cherry limeade.
Right?
Yeah, it absolutely does.
I get definitely as it warmed up more, I've got more and more cherry flavor out of this thing, which is pretty delightful.
It's almost one of those things where maybe the beer fridge is too cold, Is that possible? Where
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you want to drink Coors Light or Miller Lite or whatever that cold.
Yeah.
This maybe not so much.
I mean, there's definitely something to be said for that, and a lot of the specific breweries will put like temperature recommendations on their packaging. Tells you what to serve it at or what to drink it at. A lot of times stouts will do that. Sometimes sours, if they get a little bit warmer, they will open up a little bit.
Yeah.
But if they get too warm, it's almost that bacteria, that stuff that basically makes that tart flavor can get overwhelming if it gets warm. So usually it's like ice cold or a little bit warm-ish, like out of the fridge a few minutes. Is where you'd kind of want to go with these, but
Yeah, you're definitely right. The more it kind of warms up a little bit, the flavor has changed.
yeah.
That's interesting. So, Swinging Bridge Brewing Company, River Falls, Wisconsin, opened in March of 2017.
Oh, pretty new.
Has not been around long. Gentleman by the name of Dustin Dodge. He's a home brewer for 4 years. Attended the University of Wisconsin. He's a 11-year Air Force veteran. Still does some reserve work, I believe, in his spare time, according to the bio there on their website. So thanks for your service, Dustin. You make a hell of a beer, too.
Yeah, this is delicious.
Yeah. Tap room's located in downtown River Falls. This doesn't look very big, but 18 taps, real kind of rustic, homey-looking wood tables, wood floors.
Cool.
18 taps total. It looks like they've got just a ton of different beers. And it's interesting that you said, especially with this one, where you add some sort of syrup, because they also make their own soda.
Oh, yeah.
They own pop.
That's cool.
And I guess, what part of the country is that? Is it soda or pop up there?
It might be pop.
Is it soda up there? Is that what it is? In Wisconsin?
It's pop here, right?
It's pop here.
It probably reaches pop up there.
We're going to go with pop then.
Yeah.
So they make their own pop. And one of them is a cherry limeade. So I'm almost wondering if they use that syrup in this. So.
Yeah.
But then it's super family friendly. They you can even tell from like the picture. They've got board games for kids and stuff like that. So like a lot of other breweries that I've been to about that family friendly like that. They also offer cold brewed coffee too, which it looks like they use in some of their stouts as well, and then appetizer sandwiches, that type of thing. So it's a fairly limited menu for a brewery, but there's still something there. It's open, closed on Mondays, open Tuesday through Thursday, 3 to 10, Friday, 3 to 11, Saturday, 11 to 11, with a number of, there's other stuff going on downtown, so they're open, longer. And then Sunday, 11 to 9. Looks like a fun place. And for just having opened, it doesn't look like they have many employees. It's him, a brewer, and maybe 2 or 3 staff, and that's about it.
Yeah. That's cool.
It's right downtown, so I could see why Julie and Darren found that place. It looks like it's just set in maybe an old shop, it almost looks like, as you walk in, maybe one of those old soda fountain places.
Oh, that'd be really cool if that was the case.
Yeah.
And then maybe that's the tie-in with their making their own sodas.
Maybe. Yeah.
Soda pops or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So a couple hospitals nearby use a lot of travelers. We do a ton in Wisconsin. I was talking to the client manager, Mark Stock, who does a lot up there, and it's a year-round thing. They still use some during the winter. It's clearly harder to get someone to go to Wisconsin in the winter. Right. But they still have needs all the time. And this isn't the only brewery up around there. There's quite a few up around that area. This was just the one that she brought forward.
I have a theory about that, Rich.
Right.
Wisconsin and Minnesota specifically,
right.
There's a lot of breweries up there.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's just because a lot of people they needed something to do. When it's so cold and stuff, people started homebrewing at home and then got good at it, and now they have a business because that was especially some of those first really northern places, you're having a really short summer and fall, right?
Yep.
And it's spring and maybe a little bit, and then winter most of the time, seems like. And I think when it's like that, and maybe even true with some of that Alaska, the one we were talking about,
right?
There's just not a lot to do. So there's this is something to do and have fun and get people to come over and try your stuff
and try it out.
And I hope that what you're saying is true, that it was an old soda fountain. That'd be really cool.
It looks like. It looks like that kind of storefront where it it's just in smack in the middle of downtown.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong, man. It could be like an old Gibson's or
Yeah.
or whatever. But it looks like that. It looks cool.
I think one of the breweries here in town, which is Infusion, that's in Benson, they have their tap room there is set up to kind of look like what it used to was, which I think was like an old butcher shop or something like that.
Oh,
So the
that's
tile is period to that stuff, and they didn't really change. Where the bar is where the counter used to be.
Okay.
So they embrace that old building, and I think that's really cool for these craft breweries to do. They don't have to, adhere to a national standard or design. They can kind of do what they want to do, which is neat.
I think the uniqueness of each one of these breweries is what gets me. Is every one of them is different in their own way, and they're all super proud of how different they are. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
they all embrace that.
Yep. Whether it's names or designs or just styles of beer or what they put on the inside of their place, it's kind of a cool way to stand out, but also do something that's, like a brotherhood or whatever of the same, they're making beer just like everybody else is making beer. They're just standing out in a way.
I also noticed too on their tap handles for in the brew house they have the state of Wisconsin like right in the middle of it.
Oh, that's
like
cool.
a little cutout of the state of Wisconsin. So
Yeah.
and embrace where you're from, right?
For sure.
And give back to that community.
So around here, I was looking at just some of the other breweries that are close to where we're at in the Midwest that make these styles of beer. And Exile Brewing Company in Des Moines makes a year-round version because some of these are just summer beers.
Right.
But Exile has one called Beatnik Sour. That's a year-round Berliner Weisse, and it's about 3.5%. They're kind of right in the middle of downtown Des Moines. And they have amazing food. Like if I'm driving through, I stop there to eat, and then I'll maybe have a beer or two. But
Wow.
It's specifically for me. It's like a food spot. They have like these truffle fries that are amazing.
Wow.
If you're into that sort of stuff, or like a big old double pattied burger, oof,
Yep.
super good.
Yep.
But they make a good sour, especially this kind. It's a not flavored one. It's not like a fruity one. It's just like a standard. But it would go really good with a quick lunch if you're in that Des Moines area. Boulevard makes one now. Cross Train.
Yes.
That was like their bread and butter. That was the beer, the home brew that won the awards.
Yep.
And that was the one everybody wanted to try. Was the Qualiteers. And they finally put it out this year. And I had my share.
Oh, I did too. So I go way back with Qualiteers. That was the first one I ever tried of theirs. That was the one that got me, that hooked me.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's when I went home and told my wife that night that the first time I met Bobby and Scott, and I went and told my wife, I want to invest in this brewery. She's like, you're crazy, and go to bed.
Yeah, no.
But
I had their beer, maybe it was this around the same time. It was at Extreme Beer Fest. It was in February, a few years back. And this was back when they would let home brewers pour beer at these these sort of shows.
Right.
There's a law in Nebraska, basically says that homebrew clubs cannot do this.
Right.
And it had always been just kind of like, whatever. Yeah. And then they started enforcing it recently. But back then they didn't. And these guys were there, and I had heard from Steve Seitner, you got to go over here and check this out.
Yep.
So Extreme Beer Fest here in February in Omaha, it's called that for a reason. The alcohol content of those beers usually is north of 7 or 8, and some are in the teens. And the best beer I had that whole day was Qualiteers at like 3.2%, and it was the only beer the whole beer fest I went back and had more than one time. So that's like stuck in my brain. And then when you go into Cross Train, their tap room, they have that big painting on the wall, and there's that koala up in the corner he has like a necklace, like a chain on. And everybody was like, when are you going to make that beer?
Yep.
And it finally came out. So that's Omaha's version of this style. I think it's the only one that I know of in town.
Yeah.
And it's super good. And then also down in Atlanta, because I know we put a lot of nurses down there, and Sweetwater Brewing Company.
Oh.
They have one that's like almost to 4%. So it's kind of high-ish, but it's still in the realm of Berliner Weisse style. But that one's bottled and is there all the time as well.
Now I heard, and I don't know, and we maybe should save this story. We'll bring it up again when we do one of their beers. So Boiler is in Lincoln. It's Boiler Room. Is that
Boiler Brewing Company?
Boiler Brewing Company, which makes some pretty incredible beers. If you're ever around Lincoln, it's downtown Lincoln.
Yeah.
Their tap room's amazing. But I heard, and I think this is true, that so Bobby Cross, Scott Strain, right? So Scott Strain taught the dude from Boiler how to make a Berliner. And it was that beer that won him the Sam Adams Brewing the American Dream.
Yeah, there was a raspberry version
Is
of
that
Yeah.
so? That's true then.
Yeah, he made that. He made that beer. I don't know about when or how it happened. I know that the guy that runs Boiler, his name is Tim Thompson, and he was a home brewer for a long time. And he and another guy, they used to be like a partnership, homebrew partnership team. Like, so they would brew together, right?
Yep.
So Tim runs Boiler, and the other guy, his name is Brian, and he makes the beer. I think it's 5168. I think that's the name.
Oh,
the brewery that supplies the beer for like local and all the places in Lincoln and in Omaha. They have a tap room.
There's a tap room down
Yep.
in Midtown Crossing.
Midtown Crossing.
Yeah.
So those guys were a homebrew group or team, and then they split off. They still brew together sometimes for fun, but they split off and they both run breweries in Lincoln. So,
Yep.
But that beer came from that, and yeah, for sure he won the homebrew competition, and that's kind of what started Boiler, was just having that national acclaim.
Right.
So,
Yeah. That's
so a lot can be done with a 3.5% beer.
Right, with just a low ABV beer. That's interesting. So Julie and Darren, thank you again for bringing us the Swinging Bridge Brewing Company. What was this?
We're gonna get it right. City.
Yep, in River Falls, Wisconsin.
River Falls.
Yep, Cherry Limeade Berliner Weisse. Thank you so much. That was.
It was delightful.
They brought us 2 bottles, one for this and then one for us to drink later, and that won't nearly be enough. I think I could drink one of these by myself probably.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, next week. You know what? I don't even know. I'm gonna let Brian choose next week.
Okay, we're kind of at this crossroads now where we can really start spreading out. So
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Maybe we should let Dolan choose one of these days.
the can would be empty by the time we get
Yeah,
here.
you're right. I'm Rich. I'm Brian, and this week we're not drinking anything because Dolan drank it all.
Dolan's been here and did the setup. Yep.
Yeah. All right, so we'll see you next week.